our Mother's Day edition. And happy Mother's Day weekend to all of you moms out there. I hope that anyone who's thought about joining, text your mom, grab your mom, bring her along, tell her to pop a bottle of wine and taste along with us, because we are really celebrating today one of the fundamental, most amazing aspects of the wine industry that at its core are the families who make so many of the wines happen. One of the great things about learning about wines from all around the world is how often they are multi-generational family businesses. And so, you read about families like Antinori in Italy, now in their 26th generation. I read somewhere that of the 10 longest running family businesses in the world, 6 of them are wine companies. So there's something just very fundamental about the kind of long range vision, kind of the passion, the linkage to the land that just seems to lend itself to being family enterprises. And in Virginia, that couldn't be more true. Thinking about the well over 300 wineries here in the Commonwealth, every single one is owned by a family, and many are now moving into their second generation. So I'm just absolutely thrilled that today we're welcoming 2 of the families that have provided a lot of inspiration for many of us in Virginia wine, the owners of Veritas Winery and Ankita Ridge, as well as our very own associate winemaker, Maya Hood-White, and her mom. So we're going to talk through the inspiration, what really brought these wineries to life, as well as, what made then the next generation choose to join on in. And so I just want to give everyone a few minutes to grab a glass, pop the wines. We are going to be tasting our Early Mountain Rosé first, Veritas Sauvignon Blanc second, the Ankita Ridge Pinot Noir third, and RAH, which is an amazing dessert wine, fourth. But feel free to open anything. Don't wait for us. Taste what you'd like. And I'm going to go ahead and welcome Maya to talk us through the rosé. So, welcome, Maya. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
And thank you so much for joining us. I do need to start by saying that poor Maya was literally up all night last night on frost duty. You all may have heard that yet again, we are getting thrown some crazy curveballs here in this lovely year of 2020. So thank you for joining us on maybe a couple hours of sleep.
I'm gonna go with minimal sleep.
Minimal sleep.
There was like a second in the car, I almost started falling asleep, then, everything broke loose, so. But.
Well, while people, get their bottles open, why don't you go ahead and talk us through this rosé?
Yeah, definitely. So this is our 2019 Early Mountain Rosé, and we've been kind of pursuing this style of rosé, since we started working together as a team in 2015. We do have 2 vineyard sites. So we have the Early Mountain site, and we have the Quaker Run site, which is a mountainside site. And typically we're pulling the majority of the fruit for the rosé from the Early Mountain site, because that site just naturally lends itself to lighter bodied, red wines, or really some really nicely, structured white wines as well. So when we make our rosé, we're picking it as we would pick a white. So for the most part, so we're looking for high acid, a moderate amount of sugar. We're not looking for really, final high alcohol on the wine. But for us, the goal is to make kind of a textural rosé, and also one that has some pretty interesting aromatics to it. So we are pursuing multiple fermentations. This is primarily Merlot, but within that subset of Merlot, there is probably about half a dozen different fermentations that we're pulling from, different blocks. We use a lot of ambient starters, or not starters, ambient, well, I guess it technically is a starter. We'll put a keg of juice outside and, get it going, and then bring it in and pitch that in the lot as well. So I guess, starter works, but just to add a little bit more character to the wine. So for the most part, again, Merlot with some Cabernet Franc. And we've typically used a little bit more Syrah in other years, but we're in the process of removing that block. So we have a 4.5% Syrah, 4.5% Malbec, and a little bit of Petit Verdot in there as well. So what I really am enjoying about the 19 Rosé is, well, I'll kind of backtrack to 17. I really love the 17 Rosé because it has searing acidity, and that's kind of what I look for in rosé. And then when we had 18, with that vintage being a little bit more, subdued because of all the rain, we had a much more like broad textural rosé. And it was so different. It was such a departure from 17 that I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel. Then as we, started working with it more, I was like, I actually really like this. So what's special about 19 is we realized we love that breadth of the texture, but we also were able to maintain that acidity because it was such a delightful growing season. As I say, this is slightly sleep deprived after last night. So to me, this wine has lots of fresh berries to it, stone fruit. And what is, kind of interesting is I always find with our rosé, there's a pithiness. So I don't want to say bitter because that has a negative connotation, but kind of like if you think of like a pithiness coming from a citrus fruit, I like that texturally with our rosé, and we were able to achieve that again this year. So that's kind of always a hallmark for our rosé, for me at least. So when we blend, that's what I like to look for when we're trying different things out. So
awesome. Well, thank you for that overview. I've seen a lot of people join in, people saying hi. Julie and Katie Garrett. Kathy Weideman said hi, said that she loves our rosé. So thank you so much for that. And overall, the goal for this was to really provide a starter wine, whet our palate, and then shift into some of the family stories. But I do want to share what we're going to be featuring for our Taste of Virginia series a week from today. So Saturdays at 5 p.m., basically until we are fully open and back to business, and maybe even at that point, we'll keep these going. The goal is to feature an array of Virginia wines as part of this series. And so a week from today, May 16th, we will be hosting 4 shades of rosé. So 4 different rosés from wonderful wineries throughout the state. We have Nathan Vrooman's wife, Rachel Stinson-Vrooman, coming back to showcase her Rosé of Tannat. We have King Family. Matt Brown, their wine director, is joining to talk about their very popular Crozet Rosé, as well as a sparkling extra brut style from way down south in Rosemont Estate. Justin Rose is going to be joining us to talk about his sparkling rosé. So super fun lineup. And certainly don't need to have those on hand. You can open whatever rosé you'd like and join in. So hopefully we'll see you all again this coming Saturday. So Maya, I will let you, maybe you can take a little 20-minute nap, 15-minute nap, but then you have to.
That's perfect. I think that's the max napping I got today anyway, so I can do that.
Wonderful. We'll see you in a little bit. With your mom though next time.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Well, first we're going to welcome Patricia Hodson and her daughter Emily from Veritas Winery. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, thanks for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. And where are you today?
Oh, well, we are in the Veritas tasting room, and we kind of miss it. It seems a little empty, but we got some fresh flowers, and we have all the wines behind us, and we're really excited for a fun tasting with our moms.
Yeah, well, wonderful. And really the inspiration for this, moms and their whiny kids, well, I'd say partially the name came from the fact I've been surrounded by my whiny children quite a bit, although Maya actually came up with the wonderful name. But also this, kind of inherent quality of winemaking and wine businesses that they just feel like they lend themselves to a family enterprise. So I would love to start with hearing the story of Veritas and, the inspiration behind it, how it was founded, and Patricia, how you and your husband, came to find this absolutely beautiful place.
Well, that's me, yes. So it's a very long story, but probably like every other family here, it's a great passion. And my husband, Andrew, has always loved wine. And also, of course, I have two. And I've always been very passionate about the outdoors and growing things, and I love growing things. So it was sort of a natural thing to come together and grow the grapes and make the wine. And
you were here for a conference, a medical conference in 98, 97?
in 1998.
Yes.
Yes. We were here and we met a young couple, and they were doing artisan things, and we just got talking to them about Virginia, and they were telling us their passion for Virginia, and we said we would love that too, but actually we were interested in wine. And back then, because we didn't know anything, we said we would be interested in Virginia, but we wanted to do wine. And they said, well, there are wineries in Virginia. And we were like, you're kidding me. So it doesn't seem that long ago, because it was just over 20 years ago, but indeed, we did not know that Virginia did wine. And
because we were living in Florida at the time.
Yes, that's another good reason.
Yes.
And because we're Europeans, so of course we're Francophiles, and we thought only the French made wine. So there you go. Just kidding.
And so that was around the year 2000?
So actually, no, we planted the grapes in 2000. We bought the farm in 1999 and moved in 1999. So that actually Emily was planting the grapes in 2000. So she just came back from what she was doing and started planting the grapes with us in 2000. So yeah, it started in 2000.
And you're exactly right, Eileen. There's just an aspect of farming and having a passion project like this that you can only do with your family, because it takes so much investment. And I don't mean money, I mean just physical work and care and love. And you need a team of people, also known as a family, to help you do that.
Right.
Well, I think the family are the understanding part of the team. Yes.
Emily, what were you doing in 1999 or 2000? I mean, was it a natural shift for you to come and join? And
well, it's funny you asked that, Eileen, because it really was. Both my parents and I had a big career shift. So they were in Florida, I was in Southeast Asia, and I was working for Save the Children, and realized that I wanted to look for a line of work that required less travel. And when I called to tell my parents, I thought they were going to be super bummed. And but actually they had big news as well, which was that they had decided to buy this farm and start looking at grape growing. So I decided that was a good opportunity just to take some time off and figure out what my next step was. But immediately fell in love with Virginia, with the mountains, with the wine industry, working outside. And so, yeah, it was a quick shift for all of us, actually.
Was.
And it seems that because winemaking combines so many different types of skill sets, there's the science aspect, there's the artistry, there's the understanding of the viticulture side and the vineyard side. Which were you most inclined to? What was your background that you felt that natural fit, and then were able to kind of branch out and learn from there?
Wow, that's a fun question, actually. So my background was epidemiology, which is the study of disease. So I was very well suited to watching the vineyard and disease and looking at that aspect of it. What I didn't realize is how much I like being outside and how much I like creating something. And I don't mean in an artistic way. I mean, it's more processing. It's more, deciding when to pick, how to create that grape into, as Maya was saying, she loves that pithiness or that, not bitterness. And I agree, we don't want to say it's bitter, but that style of something and paying attention to all those details really does kind of, it fits so many different aspects of my personality, from the science background and really getting to geek out about yeast and bacteria and disease spread. So it fulfilled that science side, but then also just being outside, watching the seasons, watching things grow. The development of a plant is very just feels good in the soul. And so I landed in Virginia wine country pretty hard. I knew it from the minute I was digging irrigation ditches that I wasn't going back to epidemiology.
And so I particularly wanted to show your Sauvignon Blanc because the story that I had heard was that the reason you first planted Sauvignon Blanc was just a personal passion. And to me, that's one of the fun things, you know, with family businesses. Like if you were a business person going to Napa, you're going to plant Cabernet Sauvignon because you're going to get, you know, $15,000 a ton, and you couldn't possibly plant anything but that. And, you know, I believe I heard you tell the story of, if you look at where Sauvignon Blanc should be planted, it is not here. You know, it's not the right climate necessarily. And yet you found this way to make an unbelievable, delicious, layered, complex Sauvignon Blanc. So I'd love to hear the story behind it.
Well, it definitely was a passion project because everybody told us not to plant it. Including Dr. Tony Wolf, who's our state viticulturalist. But I can remember vividly, and I know we all have these moments. They're not necessarily the most special or, you know, it wasn't a huge birthday or anything, but I can remember sitting by the side of the pool with my parents many years before, and my dad opened a bottle of Cloudy Bay Sauvignon Blanc. And we all tripped out, and this was the beginning of my understanding and finding sort of the layers of wine and a love of wine, probably when I was 23?
At least 21.
At least 21. And so we, as a family, we all kind of had this understanding of, this love story with Sauvignon Blanc. Mm-hmm. And so when we were planting, that was one of the grapes that was important to us, just in our evolution of love of wine. And so when we looked at the property, we knew we wanted to plant Sauvignon Blanc, despite everybody's, what's the right word? Despite everybody telling us not to. And so there's one spot, it's our highest elevation. It's a really windy spot on the top of the hill. And we thought, well, you know, if we can do it, if we could grow Sauvignon Blanc, there's one spot on this farm where we could do it, and that's up on the top meadow. Mm-hmm. And so my dad and I looked at each other. I was like, Dad, you know, if it doesn't work, we can pull it out. And of course, that was early days, and we didn't realize actually how hard it is to remove a vineyard once you've planted one. But we went ahead and we planted the Sauvignon Blanc, and we have been blessed by that site. And my parents grew up in wine and in Europe, and so they innately understood that we had a good site for grape growing. But the pairing of that Sauvignon Blanc, both the Clone 1 and the Musqué up on the top meadow with the wind and the elevation, mm-hmm. Has been one of the joys of my winemaking career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the reasons that you were able to be so successful is because you tried so many different clones. Is that right?
Sure, yeah, and still are. I mean, even since our first planting of 2 clones, we've planted 4 more. So we're constantly evaluating. One of the drawbacks of Sauvignon Blanc in Virginia is that the grapes are really tight, close to each other. So if you have a wet vintage, the inside of the cluster doesn't dry out really well. So we've been evaluating Sauvignon Blanc clusters that are just a little bit looser, so the grapes aren't touching so tight. I mean, the Sauvignon Blanc grape isn't actually even round or ovoid. It actually has like flat parts on it because the cluster is so tight and compact. But interestingly enough, I'm still kind of in love with our original 2 clones, so that was luck, I guess.
Yeah. And so how do you then take that and turn it into a beautiful wine like this 2019 Sauvignon Blanc?
Sure. So Sauvignon Blanc is, after sparkling wine, is the first grape that we bring in. With Sauvignon Blanc, my primary concern is the acid quality of the grape. So I'm not worried about my sugar accumulation. I'm not necessarily worried about flavor development. The most important thing with Sauvignon Blanc is just a beautiful acid core. So we're constantly looking at the pH and the TA as it's developing, because interestingly, Sauvignon Blanc holds a nice acid, and then all of a sudden it drops off really fast. So I kind of obsessively sample that. When we bring it into the winery, we actually de-stem it. So we take the grapes off the stem and we cold soak just to get a little bit more of that passion fruit, lime zest, and that a light floral quality to it. And then we stainless steel ferment, and we get it into bottle as fast as we can. The most important thing with Sauvignon Blanc is to be gentle and to keep it completely anaerobic, so no oxygen in your winemaking process. And then, yeah, I hope everybody's enjoying it. I hope everybody has a glass of at least some rosé, as well as some Sauvignon Blanc, because actually these two wines that we started with are perfect for, and I'm sorry, Maya, about your frost duty, but these days that are brisk but sunny and all the flowers are out are what Sauvignon Blanc and rosé are made for.
And oysters. Oysters, they're just coming into bloom right now, just like the flowers are. And unfortunately, we don't have any just yet, but Sauvignon Blanc and oysters, perfect combination.
And so, Patricia, if I could change back to you, could you have imagined, based on Emily when she was a child, that she would be a winemaker? What did you think she would do? If you don't mind, I'll share the image you shared with us of.
Well, yeah, that's lovely. That's Valley Forge, actually. Yes, that's a lovely photo. If I would imagine anything about Emily, I just would imagine her doing something that suits her personality, which is very type A. That's a good thing, obviously. And I wouldn't have put her into the category of winemaking any more than I would have put myself into that category of owning a winery. But it suits all of our personalities because it's very family, and we're family based. It's suits Emily and Andrew's personality, so they're like
happiness,
Tom and Jerry.
Yes.
And
Andrew being my father.
Andrew being father, yeah. And for me, it's just the opportunity to be outside. But for Emily, who asked the question about, yes, the type A aspect of her personality is what I love.
And I couldn't stand your silk shirts.
Yes. Oh, her nose too. She was like, "Are you wearing silk? Are you wearing silk?" Like, no, I'm not. Anyway, yeah, there you go.
I used to annoy my mom because I was a little bit smell sensitive. So I couldn't stand the smell of silk, and my mom, I guess, when I was younger, had a lot of silk shirts, and I was like, "Mom, are you wearing a silk shirt again?" Oh. So yeah.
Well, that comes through in the end because now I'm like, Emily, do I smell all right?
But what I love so much too about Veritas is it's not just you and your mom and your dad, but you have many other family members that are part of it. Do you want to share a bit of everyone's role and what they do?
Sure. So my brother George is also here, and he's the CEO, and so he keeps us all in line and does all of the he will proudly say does everything that we don't want to do, which is true. You know, filing taxes and keeping everything in line. My uncle Bill is our vineyard manager. My auntie Di has been and does run the farmhouse at Veritas. Let's see.
Chloe and Elliot.
Chloe and Elliot.
The black sheep.
Yep. No. Chloe is my associate. Elliot is my associate winemaker, and he's married to my sister Chloe. And Chloe ran our events business for many, many years before becoming a yogi and a full-time mom. Yeah. Yes. And
young mom, because she's a lot younger. So she's in the 3-year-old and 1-year-old stage now. So she's at home.
I'm just thinking through, making sure we didn't forget anybody. My dad.
Oh,
hi, Dad.
Get that one.
And
yeah, it's a good team.
What's your favorite part about running a family winery, running a family business?
Oh, everything really. I mean, we get to watch things grow together, which might sound very esoteric, but every year we catalog the year as a family. We can remember frost years. We'll never, obviously never forget 2020, and not because of all the frosts, obviously, but that's a part of it too. We can remember the cold Easters, the warm summers, the hot, dry ones. And whenever we have a wine together, whether it be Veritas or Early Mountain or Stinson or King Family or anywhere around, we can kind of think through where we were at the time.
Yeah.
And
it all has a story, it all comes together, and we have a product that we can share and talk about. It's part of our lifestyle. Yeah.
And then there's food culture involved too.
Which is important to us. We're really food and wine we love. Yeah.
And I know your kids are not, Emily, remind me, you have a 14-year-old daughter and a
14 and 11, 2 girls, yes.
Do you dream of them joining the family business someday, or too early to tell?
I do, but don't tell them. Yeah, so they, my kids have suffered.
Oh, goodness. Sorry about that. I'm not sure where they've dropped off to. Let's give them just 1 minute to come back in. And while we wait, Christine, I'm gonna have you and Nathan join. Come on in, Christine. Hi, welcome. And Nathan's going to come in as well.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Christine.
Hi, Mom.
Oops.
We got everybody?
We do, although we're not hearing Christine. Would you mind trying again? You're not muted. Let me try pulling you out and back in. Just 1 second. Sorry for the technical problems, everyone. Let's just try once more. Christine?
Ah.
All right, let's just give it 1 minute. All right, Nathan, it's all you.
Okay. Hopefully she'll be back.
No,
Everybody.
I'm sure Christine will be back soon. And my plan was to have you and your mom and Patricia and Emily together, because I've heard from Christine many times that they were so inspired by Patricia and the work that they've done at Veritas. And it was one of the reasons that they thought about making wine at Ankita Ridge. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a story that preceded me and my involvement for sure. And my parents tell the story all the time of how they came up back in the day when Veritas was just getting started, kind of like the way we were several years ago. And they went to, I think, the first Starry Nights. And I guess probably most people watching are familiar with Starry Nights. I mean, it's a beautiful event that goes on in the summer, and at this point it's packed with thousands of people. And I think my parents were there for the first one. I think they said there were maybe 50 people there. So I think they had actually met Patricia and Andrew at the winery back in, like, I don't know when it was, 2003, maybe, something like that. I don't know. You guys can probably correct me, but anyway, yeah, that was their inspiration behind deciding to make wine and plant the vineyard.
And so when did they first see the property? And
now we really need my mom here.
I know.
Because she tells the story.
You know what that means? While we're waiting for Christine to join back, because I've heard her tell this story many times. Why don't we jump ahead to the Pinot Noir and tell us a bit about Pinot Noir? Many people I saw, on the Facebook group for Virginia Wines, and posted a question a few days ago saying, I love Pinot Noir. I'm interested in Pinot Noir from Virginia. What should I try? And then it was like 20 people all saying Ankita Ridge.
Yeah.
You're quite unique in growing the grape in Virginia. And so
yeah. And I think that kind of goes back to the vision of my mom and dad, and then Lucy Morton, our viticulture consultant, like her sort of vision of that property. Once my parents decided they wanted to grow fruit, to grow grapes, they reached out to a few people, and Lucy was one of them. And Lucy pretty much convinced them that this might be one of the best spots in the area to grow Pinot Noir. And because we have such a small site, it's only 2 acres right now, less than 2 acres that's producing at the moment, the original vineyard. In order to sort of make an impact, it has to be, something that's a little bit unique. So they decided to just go for it. And it was, like I said, that was before my time. I think I was living out in Colorado at that point.
And Nathan, I see your mom is back in the stream, so I'm going to bring her back.
Okay, bring her in.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, nice
She's
to
there. All right.
Yeah, so I can go back to the story of how we met Patricia and Andrew, how they inspired us. It was back in Virginia Beach in 2002 or 3, and we tasted our really first our wonderful Virginia wine at that time when they were pouring their wines at the Neptune Festival. So they inspired us to, because they were making a beautiful wine, and that's when we learned that we could make, or discovered that good wine could be made in Virginia. So that was the beginning of us considering making wine, but we never really did then. It was until after we got the property here on this mountain, and an excavator cleared an extra special spot where we, in addition to where we wanted to have the house put, we didn't know what to do with it. And at that point, we decided, well, Patricia and Andrew make a really good wine. They got a lovely family business. Maybe we could just put a little vineyard on this site. And we got Lucy up here, and Lucy's in the audience with her daughters, Julie and Katie. And she's the one that said, if you could grow Pinot Noir anywhere in Virginia, this would be the place to grow it. Because we knew it was just going to be a small little passion project. We didn't buy the property to plant a vineyard. So we wanted to plant something special. And it was funny listening to Patricia and Emily say how people were telling them, don't plant Sauvignon Blanc, you can't do it. Well, Andrew was telling us, don't plant Pinot Noir, it can't grow here. So there's so many similarities in light history repeating itself. So so anyway, because of this little journey with destiny, we ended up planting that little vineyard on this spot high up on a mountain, and and got the vineyard going. And by the time it was fruit was coming, well, I guess maybe the second year, we decided, I think we're going to do this, and I think we need a winemaker. And Nathan at that point was out in Denver, and he was thinking, I can come back and I can study how to make wine and learn how to do that. And then everything else fell into place with that. And I think, Nathan, you can tell the story of how you got here and how you met your future bride.
Well, yeah, that's a big part of the story, obviously. But I was living out in Denver at the time. I think I was back here over the Christmas holiday, maybe, or I can't remember what it was, but we were talking about what we're going to do with the fruit. Actually, no, I had moved back from Colorado at that point. I was out west, and I decided that I didn't want to settle out in Colorado. My family was here, and I was getting to that point in my life when it's time to settle down. So I thought it would be best just to move back home and settle down back home, so I didn't have to constantly battle the distance with everyone that I love in my family. So I moved back home, and then I guess it was about a year later. I wasn't really that involved with the wine at all, or the vineyard that much. It was more of a business strategy meeting that I had with my parents as far as what to do with this first vintage of fruit. And we talked about doing custom crush. We talked about selling the grapes, and we just kind of crunched the numbers and decided it would be fun for us to just do it ourselves. We've done everything else ourselves, so we decided we'd just take the leap of faith and figure it out. So I kind of volunteered myself to dive in and learn the winemaking side of it. So that's how I got involved in the family business. And then at that point, naturally, the first thing I want to do is sign up for classes, and PVCC has a great enology program here, and I signed up for some classes. And the first class I went to was actually at Jefferson Vineyards. It was a winery equipment. I think it was just winery equipment and winery design type class, and that's when I met Rachel Stinson at the time, and her dad were in that class, because they were both doing the same thing. It was kind of like me and my parents were getting into this business, and Rachel and her parents were getting into this business. So we all met, and and then it worked out that we both had Lucy as our vineyard consultant, and we both had hired Matthew as our winemaking consultant, and just sort of all the stars aligned, and we ended up making our first vintage of wine at Stinson, and that's where Rachel and I got to know each other, and now we have a house with 2 baby girls, or a 2-year-old and a 6-week-old. So here we are.
And was that 2010, about 10 years ago?
Yeah, that was 2010 was our first vintage for both Ankita Ridge and Stinson.
And so you started with 2 acres, but now you're going deeper and deeper, right? You've planted more and more fruit.
Yeah, basically. We planted another, I'm going to say another 3. It depends on who you talk to. If you talk to my dad, it's 4 acres. If you talk to me, it's 3.5. But yeah, we just planted about 3.5, 4 acres of mainly Pinot Noir, some more Chardonnay, and a tiny bit of Gamay. So enough to make like a barrel of Gamay that we'll just sort of do as a special project every year. So this will be the first year that vineyard is producing. We planted it in 2017. There's a lot of drama behind that whole planting, but we finally eventually got the vineyard basically designed and planted. Our planter bailed on us, so we had to figure out that on our own, and we got the vines in the ground very late. So we had a year behind, and then 2018 was so rainy that really set the plants back from all the weeds. And then 2019 they finally grew, and 2020 is when they're really going to produce. So it's exciting.
And I feel like in your short history, there have been so many dramatic stories about Ankita Ridge, be it people not showing up to plant, or the year that a wildfire almost swept you guys away. Christine, your enthusiasm and your energy when telling these super dramatic stories is incredible to me. You clearly have the temperament for this.
The stories seem to find their way here, and I don't know if it's the law of attraction because I love to tell stories, or what, but the stories happen around here. Yeah, the fire was 3 years ago in November, and it came within 30 feet of the house here and right up to the vineyard fence, and went out 11,000 acres behind us. It started right down the hollow, right next to the house, sort of. And that was a frightening, very emotional in many ways. You'd had the fear and the fright, and then the relief, and then the joy, and then the fear would come back, and it was back and forth for about 5 days. But the firefighters, God bless them, they saved everything, and we're grateful for that. And we have a lot of things happening here, I think, because we're not just a vineyard, we're a farm with our sheep and chickens and the dogs and the cats, and we're very animal oriented because Dennis, my husband Nathan's dad, was a veterinarian, and we had a veterinary practice in Virginia Beach for 30 years, and so we love animals, and we're very family oriented as well. So, and we love the outdoors and nature, and so everything just sort of fell together in this surprising ride in destiny that we've taken. I don't know how.
I think
doing
a
this?
lot of it is, none of us are really type A. And that's kind of what you need to run a nice, tight, organized ship. So, in Keto Ridge, a lot of times it's sort of fly by the pants and just get it done and figure out a way to do it. And that leads to a lot of drama and a lot of funny and and good stories. But we're able to always get it done, which is pretty cool.
Well, and I guess I always come back to just the beauty of your place. I mean, you're 1,600 feet above sea level. I love Lucy posted, it's a little Burgundy. It's a little piece where, heaven and earth meet. And Christine, you have brought me so much joy throughout this quarantine period because I think you're an early bird, I'm guessing. And I often wake up and, unfortunately roll over, check Facebook, and you will have posted the most gorgeous sunrise or, birds singing out your door. I mean, you really are in this little piece of heaven.
Well, I love to reach out to people. I'm a very people-oriented person, and it's like this, to have the opportunity to touch your life or anybody's life and give them a moment of peace or a simple little moment of joy brings me such joy. And it's so easy to do that in this place with my little phone and step outside in the morning. It's just like, it just takes my breath away. So I just want to share it, with anybody who can be touched by it. So I love doing that. And it's worked out so beautifully to live in this place where we're surrounded by so many beautiful elements that it's just wonderful to be able to share that with everybody, especially during this time of seclusion and confusion and uncertainty, to just give people that little moment of peace and solitude. And nature's still here. The rivers still flow, and the leaves in the trees still rustle, and the clouds still move across the sky, and the fog over the mountain. And there's something very comforting in the everlasting aspect of that. And it just, so that it gives me joy. So good.
Yeah, well, anyone who's not following Keto Ridge, I highly recommend it. Christine, I wanted to bring in the picture that you shared of you and Nathan when he was a boy. And,
Look at that hair. What happened to the hair?
as you know, we cropped it.
What's in the
photo? I got to tell you the story with that photo. I'm hugging my little boy. He's the third. He was the third child, and cropped out is my very pregnant belly, because I delivered my fourth baby, Rachel, 3 hours later. So I just went ahead and cropped that out. And our little Marissa is there hugging my legs, but I just had to save him all from that sight. But there I was holding my little boy, saying goodbye to him and going to the hospital. And 3 hours later, having my little Rachel, because we have our own Rachel too.
by the way, she's down in the winery drinking all the wine.
Yeah, she's been writing. At least she's telling you. And so could you have imagined when Nathan was a boy that he would be a winemaker? That combination of art and science. I mean, I hear personality-wise, he's kind of opposite end of the spectrum to Emily. But winemaking really embraces a lot of different approaches.
Is that for me? Because you were breaking up.
Oh,
Yeah, that was for you.
could you imagine Nathan would be a winemaker?
Okay, no, I couldn't imagine he would be a winemaker, but he was a little boy of so many talents that I knew that whatever he would do, and he would be successful at, if it required a multitude of talents. He's not a straight and narrow, only do this one little thing. And winemaking is, in working in the vineyard with us, it requires him to utilize so many skills that he has. He's good, and he's mechanical, he's outdoors. He's so gifted in machinery and plants and people. And he's just got this wonderful combination of traits that are able, with being a winemaker, it's able to utilize so many of them. And he was the sweetest, most sensitive gentle little boy too. I just have to tell you that. And so I see that in him now as a daddy. And I could probably cry if I talk about it too much. He's just the sweetest daddy in the world. So I can see
Thanks,
that
Mom.
boy, and on his gentleness and lovingness, he is that kind of a daddy to his baby girls.
That's sweet.
It's true. I'm not making it up.
And so Nathan, I know Wells is 3, right? Your
Well,
oldest?
She's going to be 3 in July. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So it's probably too early to imagine if you're thinking of her ever joining the family business. But I mean, are you guys, generations down the road? Is that the goal?
Well, I think it probably is for all parents, who have a family business. And I don't know, she seems to like it. We have, she spends more of her time up at Stinson because we live right here, and she really enjoys the vineyard, and she enjoys tractor rides and time on the ATV. And when we go through to taste fruit, she sits on our laps and she tastes the berries along with us, and she's getting to be sort of accustomed to the vineyard, and it's just a great place for her, and she likes it so far. So yeah, I mean, it would be awesome if we could get her out there working in the next few years, and then get her in the winery, and she's going to be in it more so than any of us ever were. So it's going to come naturally for her, and if she wants to get into it, like, I'll be all for it. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. Maybe start her with frost duty, some overnights.
With what?
Frost duty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, tell me about it. Yep.
Well, wonderful. Patricia and Emily are back, and I did want to have a chance to bring them on again. So welcome back, ladies. Oops.
Sorry about that. I'm not really sure what happened. Hi, you guys.
Yeah, welcome back. And so maybe now would be a good time to taste the Pinot Noir together, and taste the grape that Andrew said don't plant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he loves the Pinot, he loves our Pinot Noir. So he had to eat his words or drink his words.
He does every day, especially because his wife's favorite grape is Pinot Noir. So
There we go.
and actually, one of the reasons that we didn't plant Pinot Noir is that we didn't want to do that. We wanted not to have to drink our own wine every night.
Well, yeah, no, it's nice just to hedonistically drink Pinot Noir and not critically evaluate it. 'cause
So he
we
says,
grow-
"What would you like?" And I go, "I'll have a Pinot." And he's like, "Really?"
And with your more Francophile, palates and background, to me, I just find the Ankita Rouge is so much kind of towards that spectrum of elegance and balance and earthiness. And, certainly it's not, we don't need to compare it to Burgundy because it's its own thing, but certainly has some of those elements of age-worthiness and complexity.
No, it's a beautiful wine. Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
And this is our
We had it 2 nights ago as well at the house with some salmon, and it was absolutely perfect. Yes, it was lovely.
Yep. And we're excited about this 2017 vintage. Is different than the previous ones. I think this is, in the past we've been a little more reserved with our style, and we decided to try to go a little bit bigger with this wine. The weather helped us kind of get the fruit a little bit riper, and Lucy's probably gonna kill us because we we pushed this fruit to be probably a little riper than maybe it should have been. So the alcohol is a little bit higher, but it still turned out to be a very nice balanced wine. The acidity is nice, and I think it's this one is sort of leaning a little bit farther away from the French European style, and almost getting more into a little bit of the West Coast American style, which is kind of cool. We're just sort of finding our way and experimenting as we go, and I don't know. I think we've made some interesting strides with this wine over the previous vintages.
And in this vintage, the vines were 10 years old. So that's sort of coming of age in many regards. When a vine reaches 10 years old, it's no longer a young adolescent vine. It's starting to develop, feel its roots and be more expressive of the terroir too. So
And be more predictable.
it's young. We planted it in 2008. So we're just pleased with the structure of the wines that we've been able to get from these young vines from pretty much from the beginning. So,
Yeah.
And
fun too.
very respectful of the vintage too, Nathan. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's a little higher in alcohol, but 17, we could do that. And I love when we speak to our growing conditions and don't try and ignore them.
Yeah.
You aren't trying to create the same thing every year. You're speaking about how it was grown and
Yeah, I don't want to be like in a box of, this is what Enquito Ridge Pinot Noir is. I want to be able to, if there's a good vintage, then just like, hell yeah, let's just go for it. Like, screw it. Let's get it right. Let's see what it can do.
Yep.
And this is like the first year that we could really do that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so very quickly, so 2016, we bought some of the last 5 cases that's part of the ship, and then 17 is releasing. So definitely excited to hear the contrast between the 2 vintages.
Right, yeah, it's, that's right, we're drinking the 16. I'm doing another one.
Wait, what are we? Oh shoot, I've got the wrong vintage.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But the 16 was pretty similar to this, but yeah, see, I'm doing a Pinot Noir talk right after this, and so we're doing the 17 with that, but you were doing the 16, yeah. But the 16 is lovely too. You can describe that, honey.
Well, yeah, no, the 16 is also cool too, because we finally, in 14 we made an estate wine. In 15 we didn't have enough fruit to make an estate wine. And in 16 it was like the first vintage where the vineyard was old enough where we could start making estate wine every year. And it was a solid vintage. Unfortunately we're sold out of it. You guys got the end of it, but yeah, no, the 16 is drinking awesome.
That's his sister.
Yeah, your sister's making fun of you, Nathan.
I just saw that too.
Exactly what is a doof, Nathan?
What's that?
What
A
is a
doof?
doof?
That me. I'm the doof.
What does that mean? I don't know.
Sister love. Well, wonderful. Well, I also wanted to have a chance for each of you to talk about some of the things happening with your winery. So obviously 17 Pinot Noir releasing is an exciting one. Christine, how can everyone tune in to the Pinot Noir tasting in about an hour if they're interested in doing so?
Repeat the question because you're breaking up. I'm sorry.
The Pinot Noir tasting this evening afterwards, how would people join that if they wanted to see that as well?
I guess go to Drink What You Like blog, and he's going to have a link there. The Zoom, it's a Zoom room, but it's all filled up. So you can do Facebook Live through Drink What You Like. And I think if I can get, I think we can get it switched, added to our own Facebook page as well. If I have an opportunity to do that, maybe Nathan can do that once we go live. Nathan, maybe you can go ahead and move that onto Ankita's Facebook page.
I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah. And ladies, Patricia and Emily, tell us about what's happening at Veritas. What should everybody know?
Oh, sure. So we've really enjoyed our new online presence. And I think our biggest thing coming up is our new, what's the name of it, Becky? Change the Date sweepstakes. So we've put together a lot of wedding vendors, florists, and we felt so much love and support from our community. We wanted to give something back. So we've started a new sweepstakes for anybody that's had their wedding delayed or ruined due to our current pandemic world. So go to our website at veritaswines.com to see all the details there. we also, we're trying to really, every week do an online live tasting every other week and case specials as we move forward. So that's everything that we've got going right now.
Oh, one more thing.
Oh, one more thing.
So the farmhouse at Veritas is the bed and breakfast, which is also a small restaurant, and that's doing takeouts too. So curbside, but it's 3-course dining, just sort of replicating what it does normally, paired with wine, and that's actually going really well. So just letting everybody know that that's going on too.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Happy Mother's Day to
Happy
both.
Mother's Day. Yay.
Yay.
Hey,
Happy
Eileen, you
Mother's Day
mentioned
for both of
you
us.
mentioned maybe continuing these past the COVID restrictions, and I think that would be a brilliant idea if we could continue doing this type of stuff. Like I think it's really awesome.
I totally agree. I mean, I've had a blast doing it, and especially to me, it's kind of pulling back the curtain. We're all friends. We all love each other. We all talk a lot, do things behind the scenes, and it's wonderful to kind of bring that out into the open and tell these broader stories of Virginia wine.
Yeah, look at my dirty playroom.
Well, we were listening to a poem today, and actually the word was hindsight 2020. So I love that because of the vision, obviously, but the hindsight on this year is going to be incredible for how our businesses develop into the future.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, wonderful. And don't go anywhere, everyone, because we are going to welcome Maya back with her mom. But I wanted to make sure I wished you ladies a happy Mother's Day before I move you on.
Happy Mother's Day to you.
Hey, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. So we'll be welcoming back Maya. She's had her nap. And Maya's mom, Ramona. Well,
Hey, mommy.
Hi.
I'll say, I swear my mom was gonna like wring my neck, and I was like, "Hey, you want to do this tasting with me?" She's like, "No." Because unlike everyone else, we are not a winemaking family. So, but in some ways, it's kind of neat, and it's a little convoluted. I'll explain. So, like, I come from an engineering and mathematics-based family, and so I worked for a defense contractor for a number of years. And I remember we would always take Fridays off in the summer or half days, with people we worked with. And I remember going with my parents, and we would always go to Veritas as one of the places, and a couple of other places because I worked in the Charlottesville area. So it's really kind of cool to be able to participate, with everybody there. And I remember trying Ankita Ridge Pinot Noir right after I moved back from California several years ago. And, I grew up in Santa Barbara, or, mom obviously did too. And they'd grow a lot of Pinot Noir. And I remember like the few that I had tried in Virginia at that point, they weren't overly memorable. But I remember trying Ankita Ridge when I first got back. I'm like, this is delicious. Like, this is where are you planted? What are you doing? This is, it's unexpected. And it's really, really, I find it special that I'm able to participate in this one with everybody.
Yes. And so if you started with a science and math background, then what brought you into winemaking?
I didn't like working in a cubicle. Basically it, no. So I worked for the defense contractor, and I just didn't like it. And, you don't hear about who makes wine. Like, that's not something that when you're figuring out what you want to do with your life, they're like, and you can make wine. So, that would be a great to lead with, but I kind of got into it by way of my mom in a weird way, because she, I guess, a while ago, I remember her telling me, and, she and my dad were, becoming more familiar with wine tasting, being in California before I was born. And then, they had their children and everything deteriorated. And then as I was an adult, my mom's like, I'm going to get back into this. And I remember like the first wine she ever made.
You were in tech. You were at tech then.
Yeah, I was at Virginia
One
Tech.
class. Yeah.
Yes. And so I remember the first wine she ever gave me, like when I was younger, it was like, Napa Cab. And I tried it. I'm like, no, like, it's like your first wine you're ever trying. And I remember going, can I add water to this? Because like, I can't drink this. She goes, if you can't drink it, you cannot drink wine. So it's like, you can't have it if you have to add water to it. So obviously things have evolved since that very first glass. but yeah, so.
And so the wine that we chose tonight for you is a super special one.
Wow.
All right. This is your special side project.
Yeah.
So tell us about RAH.
So this is a side project that everybody at Early Mountain is so generously letting me, kind of just make there. It's just a couple barrels, and the first vintage was the 2017, which is what we're trying. So it is a dessert wine. It's a pasamiento, so it's dried. So typically, if you expect, part of this wine, for example, is Malvasia Bianca. It's about 25%. The rest is Petit Manseng. And we put it in a barn, which is Eileen has a picture of, and we dry it down. So if you think of Malvasia, it's very big and juicy. You usually get maybe, say, 600 liters per ton or a little bit under that for that particular varietal. So I dried it to increase the sugar. And it's a fairly old method of making dessert wine. And then I got just over 100 liters off of it. So you're drying it and you're really concentrating those aromatics, the sugar, the acid, and then you're pressing it and you wind up with essentially like this really sticky, sweet, syrupy wine. So the goal was to use the Malvasia, which is very aromatic, and then with the foundation of Petit Manseng, because I adore Petit Manseng and it has high acid and it does really well here. So I knew that was always going to be a very, important part of the blend, and the Malvasia kind of came around in a different way. So that's the picture of them drying. So we basically lay them out in the lugs, single, just very flat, just single layers. And then we stack the lugs because you have airflow. And then we dry them in that barn and then press them. And it took about 30 days to start fermenting on its own, which was very nerve-wracking. And I had to keep telling myself, remember Tokai, it takes forever. Like, remember that, it's fine, it's fine. I did not actually handle it very well. 30 days is a unnerving amount of time, but it's all ambient, so there's no added yeast or anything to the wine, and then it just stopped naturally on its own. So it got just over 12% alcohol, and so the remaining residual sugars in there, and it aged in neutral barrels for about a year and a half after that, and then we bottled it. So, and the name came from, so RAH is the initials of my grandmother. So, and I was trying to come up with a name, and I kept returning to that, and I was like, oh, everyone's going to think that's, kind of really silly. I shouldn't do that. But it was just, I was incredibly close to my grandmother, and it was just something special that I wanted to do, and it just seemed to be the only fit. It was the only thing that I kept returning to. So, yeah.
I'm just gonna grab. I have a picture of your grandma here too.
Oh, yeah.
Ramona, this is your mom, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And what's kind of neat is my sister just had another baby. So the first vintage of this wine was the vintage her first baby was born. And then the second baby, my niece, is named after my grandmother too. So her name is Rosalie. And she was just born in December, so she's a newbie.
Yes.
And I will say, yes, you're not a winemaking family, but Ramona has certainly been at Early Mountain many a time to help out. Do you want to share some of the times you've come to assist?
Well, Pet Knot, I've come to assist, and sparkling. And then sometimes I just come when you're sorting and I squeegee the floors, and it's fun.
And so all of those times are usually kind of the most stressful, the most intense, the most, we're all kind of up there sorting away. It's the all hands on deck, everyone pitch in,
Yes.
The same way you do as a family.
I really like doing the Pet Knot and bottling and the sparkling, because that was a lot of fun. It's a lot of work though.
Yeah, it's incredibly manual, and a lot of
I feel like
touch those bottles going from throughout the process.
Really, she deserves credit for us still doing Pet Knot, because we did it in 14 for the first time. It's kind of a side, project, like, hey, let's try this style of wine. Is it going to work? It worked. That was just me sitting on the cellar floor bottling it by hand. And then the next vintage in 15, it was like, well, we talked about trying it. I was like, huh?
It was both of us sitting on the floor.
It was, yes. Thank you, Mommy. It was still on the floor. But so we did it in 15, but I was like, oh, it was a fast vintage. We were all a new team together. And, it's like, does it make sense to do this? And she's like, no, I'll come in. And she came in at like 8 p.m. or something. And we didn't do that many cases. And since then it's grown. But really, like, I don't think we would have ever continued doing it if every year she'd be like, no, what day's Pet Knot we're going to do? And I was like, I don't know. She goes, we'll figure it out and I'll be in there.
And then give a range.
You do, yes. You now harass too. So it is lovely having two people
We're
harassing.
a team.
Yes, we actually are. The three of us are a really good team at it.
Well, wonderful. Well, I pulled up the lovely picture that you shared of Maya as a child. So tell me a little bit about Maya. Could you have dreamed that she'd be a winemaker based on
No.
her personality?
No, I couldn't. She was a precocious little girl, and she was very smart. And she was also, if she wanted to do something, she would do it. And the reverse was also true, but we won't go there right now. And
Thanks.
and she was a child that never wanted to go to school. Like, she was done at kindergarten, and she ended up going through Virginia Tech, and she got her degree, a science math degree. And then she got out and she went, I don't think I want to do this. And she went and she did all her prerequisites and went to UC Davis and got her master's, and here she is. So.
And what's your favorite part about Maya working in wine? Are you thrilled that she's ended up there?
I actually am, because she loves it. She loves what she does. And a lot of people can't say that. She really loves it. And so I'm happy for her.
Well, wonderful. Well, what a sweet way to end this tasting. This is absolutely delicious. I feel like dessert wines are something that we don't take enough time in the United States to really appreciate. But when you end a meal or end a tasting with a sweet wine, you just end with a beautiful smile on your face because it's absolutely delicious. I do want to just point out quickly, Nathan said that Maya and you had the same haircut.
Oh, it has to be like a child of the 80s thing. It's good. Consistency.
And so 100 liters of it. I'm absolutely.
Oh, there's more. The Petit Mincing was more. That was just like, it's an easier conversion to talk about the Malvasia. So it was about 2 barrels worth.
But very few bottles. A handful of bottles.
Yes.
Very
handful of bottles. Yes. Don't drop it. No.
So thank you so much for sharing it with us and sharing, a little bit of your grandma and your family story. And Ramona, thank you so much for joining us. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there.
And happy Mother's Day to you too, Eileen.
Thank you so much. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind everyone my little spiel for next week. We are so excited to do 4 shades of rosé. So transitioning from this really fun assortment of tasting through from rosé to Sauvignon Blanc to Pinot Noir to this blended dessert wine to a focus on the complexity and the variety within Virginia Rosé. So check it out. It's on our Facebook page. It's on our website as well. And we hope you're able to join us for our next Taste of Virginia. So thank you, everyone. And we will see you all soon.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. Bye-bye.